I call to order the April 2019 meeting of the Open Source Voting System Technical Advisory Committee of the San Francisco Elections Commission. Today is Thursday, April 11th, 2019, and the time is now 6:10 p.m. I'm the chair, Chris Jordanek. Secretary Walker, can you take the roll?
Chair Jordanek.
Here.
Member Hay.
Here.
Member Cattell.
Here.
I'm sorry, Vice Chair Cattell. There is quorum with 3 members present.
Okay. And Member Wasserman is at a speaker's dinner at a conference. He is giving a talk on open source. And he had told me that if Sean Roberts had been able to attend, he would have skipped the speaker's dinner. But since he wasn't coming this evening, he wanted to go to the dinner instead. And then Member Phillips, I did not hear from. Okay, so next item.
General public comment. Public comment on any issue within the committee's general jurisdiction that is not covered by another item on the agenda.
Okay, seeing no members of the public, next item.
Open source voting project plan. Discussion and possible action regarding the plan for the open source voting system project with invited guest Linda Jarrell, Executive Director and Chief Information Officer for the Department of Technology.
Okay, last week I had emailed Director Jarrell and asked her if Sean could attend the meeting this evening, and she had replied that she would be attending. And yesterday I received an email from her saying that the budget meeting came up, which meant that she could not attend this evening. So I also asked her if she had any materials she wanted included in the agenda packet, and she didn't forward anything on to me. But one request that she did make is that she is organizing a community meeting for the open source voting system project for later this month. I think it's Friday, April 26th at 3 p.m. And she was asking us if we had any like basically email addresses of people that she could send the announcement out. And she would like to have that by tomorrow.
Yes.
And also, of course, you know, when she does send the announcement out, we're free to forward it on to people that we know, so it's not the end of the world if she doesn't get the emails. But I thought what we could do is spend a little bit of time maybe just brainstorming some people that you think maybe should pass along as contacts to her.
Well, I guess you could include the people that have attended these meetings. I mean, if you wanted, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. For the ones we have email addresses for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I have many of them. So that's a good suggestion. I was thinking that the organizations that attended the commission's meeting back in 2015,
Yeah.
are more the nonprofits / companies, vendors.
And this is people that will receive an invitation, right?
Well, I wouldn't call it an invitation.
Or
I would say
people that
like
will
an
be
announcement or press release.
Right, an announcement. The announcement will be forwarded to.
Yeah.
Okay, great. In that case, I'll ask her to put Software Freedom Conservancy on the list. I don't know if we're actually going to be able to send somebody, but
Just so they know about it.
yeah, just them getting a heads up is probably nice.
So there's
I'm sorry, who?
Oh, Software Freedom Conservancy.
Thank you.
And I know some people there, so I'll send Linda a contact directly.
Okay.
I mean, they could also, EFF is in San Francisco, right?
Yes, very good.
Yeah, I'm gonna. There were a few nonprofit type groups
That attended the earlier meetings, or?
Well, they endorsed the project.
Oh yeah, that's right. EFF did, yeah.
I think Jacob is the one I would email.
So there's what's the name of the company? Is it Voting Works?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those people.
Yeah.
Ben,
Adida?
I forget his name. Yeah, I think that's his name.
Yeah.
I don't have his email. Just
I think
the
maybe
kid.
like the League of Women Voters of San Francisco.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be good.
And then also
Actually, I guess if you're making a list
OSI.
of making a list of organizations, I guess you could just add Stop for Freedom Conservancy to your list, and then I don't have to do this separately.
Oh, yeah, well, you could just send me,
Or I can send you, yeah.
I'll tell Linda that we all brainstorm this together. When I send her something. Do you have a specific person at the Conservancy?
Yes, I do, but he doesn't read his email very quickly.
Oh, I think I know who you mean.
I'm pretty sure we're talking about the same person.
Yeah.
So Chris, you referred me to somebody at Stanford that was doing sort of voting software, forget the name, it was a few years ago. I don't know if that team is still functioning or.
The OSET, you mean?
No. I don't remember, you would, I'd have to look through my email, I guess.
Well, I mean, well, tell me more about the organization.
I wasn't really sure it was some department in Stanford, and it seemed like it was sort of interdisciplinary, but they were interested in open source voting and doing something, I don't know.
I think I might know who you're talking about, but maybe their interest wasn't as high as I thought.
Okay.
So I haven't heard from them at all.
I mean, I went to a couple of their meetings at Stanford, but
Oh, you did?
that was a few years ago. It was like a year
You
before.
probably know more about them than I do then. And then there's also the Get Summit organizer.
The what summit?
The Get Summit, Global Election Technology Summit.
Oh, okay.
And then,
You and I were talking about civic action last week.
yeah, Civic Action. It's another nonprofit, right? Or
I don't know if they're a nonprofit or a for-profit or what kind of corporation they are. But.
I guess the Code for America.
Yes, good one.
I don't know. I'm sure there's a contact info on their website.
Well, and also the city has existing contacts with them because they did the clearing of marijuana conviction stuff for the city just recently.
Yeah. Well, there's a local chapter in Nashville,
Yeah.
so I don't know which one. Let's see. Who else? I guess maybe past applicants for TAC as well.
Yeah, that's I guess we have email data for all those people, right? So.
Yeah. And like I said, if we could always forward things
Mhm.
on. I mean, I'm sure the Department of Elections can use their request list.
Mhm. Yeah.
Anyone else, Carl?
Not offhand.
Oh, also, what about that Santa Clara, voting advisory committee or something? You know what I'm talking about?
I think they had some sort of meeting, but I didn't go to it. I think Tony told me about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just include that. I think I have still the contact. Oh, and then also there's the Californians for Electoral Reform. Fair vote.
Fair vote. I was just going to, fair vote.
Okay. I guess that's quite a few. Hopefully they won't mind that they're getting us this week.
They're getting a long list of people, yeah.
I mean the recipients.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm a little disappointed Director Jarrell wasn't able to attend or Sean, because I know there were things that she had mentioned that she wanted our feedback on.
Mm-hmm.
Like the requirements document and also, what was the other document?
Yeah, there were two things.
Yeah,
I forget what it
there's a
was.
requirements document and also maybe the document about what has been developed in the world.
Oh, yeah, that sounds like it might be right.
Yeah.
You're right, there were two things in last month's or the month before's thing that they sent us where they said they were gonna get input from us.
Yeah.
Because, the clock is ticking and budget time is gonna be upon us.
Well, yeah, I don't necessarily think that stuff is for the budget season, but, I mean, I hope it's not.
No, fair enough, but,
Yeah.
they did say that they wanted to, their timeline that they presented at the beginning of the year did involve getting some things done by like June or by budget time, so.
Yeah. Okay, so then, is there anything else on this item? Oh, and also, I should say that at the last commission meeting, she had mentioned that she had met with some potential partners, but she didn't really go into more detail, and, so that's just something else. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, let me pull up the email she sent me last night, because she did have a few bullet points to report. Okay, so here's what Director Jarrell is reporting. So she said that she met with the Clean Money Campaign folks, who is putting together a request for state matching funds, and she's discussing this request with internal staff to try to find how to respond, basically. And because the Clean Money folks wanted her feedback to know if there's any amendments they can make so that she would be supportive of the request. She said that she prepared budget presentation materials for a COIT budget review, and they're working on the requirements document. And then she also says at the end, she's looking forward to new announcements about partners for open source voting. So that's, I guess, maybe going to be more than what she said at the commission meeting.
So I found the name of the person.
Okay.
It's Nicole Shanahan of the Open Data Initiative at Codex in Stanford.
Okay. Well, why don't we list that then too?
So your email was dated 3/4/15.
Okay, I'll search for it.
At 4:43.
Yeah, I'll find that. Okay. So, anything else that I want to say about this? Okay, so let's.
So you haven't heard any other thing on as far as the project?
No, I mean, I was actually a part of the meeting that she invited about these potential partners, but she had asked me to keep it confidential. So,
Okay.
so, but beyond that, I don't know anything else.
So kind of related to that, I read over the article on the DARPA contract for open source voting. So it's, I guess the contractor are the same people that did Open Count.
Oh, great. Let's talk about that during number 5.
Oh, okay.
6.
Yeah. Okay. So let's take public comment on this item. Seeing no members of the public, let's move on. Next item.
Item number 4, approval of minutes of previous meetings.
Okay, so on this one we have 3 meetings in the queue, and I have to apologize for getting 2 of those minutes documents were held up because of me. Secretary Walker had prepared the February 14th just prior to the last meeting, and I didn't get around to posting those until yesterday. And then I also put together the draft minutes for the special working meeting we had. And then Secretary Walker had forwarded on a draft of for March 14th, but I'd like to hold that one off to the next meeting. So I don't know if people would like have a chance to read this yet, or if,
I had a chance to read through both. They both look good to me.
I read both of them and they both look good to me.
okay.
So,
I assume you had a chance to read through them as well?
Yes. Yeah, well, one of them I wrote, so.
Yeah, there you go.
So, did I characterize what each of us worked on?
I think,
Good enough, do you
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, but let me just,
It's
I
only
kinda
one
glanced
sentence,
over
right?
that. Yeah,
Okay.
that's good enough. So with that, I'll, move to approve both.
I second.
Okay. Let's take public comment on this item. Seeing no members of the public. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Secretary Walker.
Motion to approve minutes from the February 14th and March 17th meetings. Chair Jordanek,
Yes?
Member Hague,
Yes.
Member Cattell, Vice Chair Cattell, I'm sorry.
Yes.
The motion passes without objection.
Oh, and Secretary Walker, I also want to thank you for the minutes and for board work. I think you did an excellent job. So,
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, next item.
Sorry, I'm just
Sure.
logging time. Administration items, discussion and possible action regarding administration issues, including but not limited to attendance at election commission meetings by committee members, the committee website, and the committee written reports to the commission.
Okay, so let's cover our next meeting. So that is, what do we have that scheduled for?
Should be May 9th, I believe.
May 9th sounds right to me. Which is also back to work day.
May 9th, per your calendar.
Yeah, May
Okay.
9th works for me.
Okay with me.
Okay, I actually might need to miss this meeting. I'm gonna be going to PyCon,
Oh, yeah.
visit my family also.
Is that Raspberry Pi Con?
And it's the Python in general.
Oh, that's
okay.
right, it's in Ohio this year.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess,
Are you out the whole week or do you?
yeah, I'm gonna be gone that week. I think the last, I don't actually remember the day I'm returning, but the website has it. The 9th is the last day.
Do you wanna reschedule?
I would kind of like to attend this meeting if we can. Maybe, what about the following Thursday?
I will be out then, but if you want me to.
Which days are you in?
I'm leaving on that Tuesday afternoon, so I will be available the Monday, but not otherwise.
Monday, May 6th? Or sorry,
13th.
13th?
I mean, Monday, May 6th, yes, but you will be out.
Yeah.
I think I could do the 13th.
Okay. And then you said you're leaving on Tuesday, and then what about getting back?
I'm out the rest of the month, basically.
Okay.
Well, until the 28th, but that's.
Okay,
that's
Secretary
good.
Walker, do you think you could check on room availability for May 13th? And if you're not able to attend, that's okay, I could cover.
May
13th.
13th, Monday.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
any room in City Hall, basically.
And if there's no room in City Hall, do you have any other requests, or would you just not do it?
Well, I guess we could, let me see how late the public library is open. I guess we could always, because that turned out to work pretty well.
Yeah.
So do you want me to check both
Well, they're actually closed.
They're closed on Monday?
They close
It's-
Monday at
it's
6
6.
probably.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
I mean, there probably will be a room on a Monday night, so, but I mean, I'll check.
I guess maybe just might as well check for the following Thursday too, just and then we can
The
always
16th.
decide.
Yeah, and then-
then-
And then we can decide which of us needs to.
Yeah, which does. Okay, so then, I guess the other thing is, reporting at our next commission meeting, which is next Wednesday. I know you were at the last.
I was at the last one, and once again, I can't come
Were
this
you at the
Wednesday.
last one, or was?
I think it was me.
It was fun.
Yeah, but I can't make it this month because I will be traveling for work that day.
Okay.
I'll be out most of next week.
Okay. Then maybe I'll just take care of that day, just because we're having a late meeting today.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is we have our written report we're gonna have to approve at our May meeting. So.
Annual report or?
Triennial report.
Oh, so we need to write a report in time for the May meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it doesn't have to be exhaustive, it can just be,
Yeah.
just cover the main points,
Yeah.
maybe like a page and a half page.
Yeah, I can do that
Okay.
another bunch of things.
Great, excellent. Okay, thank you, Member Cattell. What else? I guess, I know we have our open source project page, I think we should, I think I haven't updated that in a bit. Maybe I can put on the draft plan that Director Jarrell had. Maybe I'll ask her for materials and then I can post that on that.
Is this the page that, can you remind us what page this is?
You click project on the top, this is the page that the civil grand jury had requested that we.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Basically the reports.
Gotcha.
Oh, and then also, something else I noticed is that your terms are up in May too.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So I think we said that you can continue to serve for 2 more months before you'd have to be reapplied. But
Wait, your terms expire in May?
I thought only one term expired in May, per the attorney's document. I thought the terms were staggered like they are.
well, this is for the TAC. So
Yeah.
we have our own bylaws.
Oh.
And well, the website says that their terms end on May 17th.
Okay, oh yeah, and Brandon's of course is different.
Yeah.
But
it's not. It
okay,
doesn't
yeah.
really. There's nothing to really do for this meeting, but it's just.
No, but I mean, that means that the commission also has to start thinking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Are there any other topics on this agenda item? Okay. Any public comment? Seeing no members of the public. Secretary Walker, next item.
Item number 6, member reports. Member reports on committee related activities not covered by another item on this agenda, including but not limited to the last Elections Commission meeting, Department of Elections progress, research findings, conferences, and news reports.
Okay, who'd like to start?
I guess I can just continue with my
Okay.
last comment. So I don't have too much more, just, it's a little confusing to me. There's Free and Fair, which is in Oregon, and this other organization that was mentioned, got the name here.
Galois.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that before.
Galois, it's G-A-L-O-I-S.
Yeah.
So tell us exactly what document you found and where did you find it?
Just the name of the people, like Joe Kinnery is one of the yeah. Kinnery, yeah, is the.
It's pronounced Canary.
Oh, okay. He was one of the open count developers.
Interesting.
Well, what is, did you say that you had found a contract, or did you just find an
Well,
article?
I mean, this is the motherboard article
Oh.
that we had in our last
Yeah.
meeting. So I just, had time to read it and just noticed that basically the people involved in that are the same ones that appear to be involved in open count.
Yeah, actually, for the open count, that was done by grad students under David Wagner at UC Berkeley, and I think
Maybe that was Joe.
I think Joe may have just basically forked that project.
Oh, I see, okay.
He just posted it up.
I know there was like some missing documentation, and like I emailed them about it, and they, like, there was like some chain, and eventually they put the missing documentation back in in their GitHub.
I think what happened is that they kind of had to try to recover the source code, and then they just posted what they found. Because,
And I can't remember now who did what
okay.
and all that, but just there's some sort of connection between this
Yeah.
contract and
And-
the prior open source
Yeah,
voting
and the other
software.
connection is that, Free and Fair is, remind me how this relationship works, Free and Fair was spun off from Colorado or something. And also a bunch of the same people at Free and Fair did the Colorado,
Yeah.
RLA system.
And then a woman that I met at the conference, the voting conference in Mountain View last month, is connected with them as
Mhm.
well.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Anything else in the news?
I just have one thing, which is because I obsessively track state legislation, I noticed that the matching funds proposal that you mentioned from the state, the legislative language for that has now been published. So it's,
Yeah, actually, I should have included that today.
okay, well, it's AB 1784, Assembly Bill 1784 by Assemblymember Santiago. And it, the short of it is that it creates matching funds up to $12 million in funding for the development of an open source voting system. And let's see, yes, it must be under an OSI license, and then there's like a separate, like 8 million of that 12 million is at a higher match rate. It's a 3-to-1, and it requires GPL, and it requires use in the November 2022 election. And there's a 2-to-1 match for stuff that's ready for 2024, and a 1-to-1 for the remaining money. Well, and I guess that goes to 2026. It's somewhat confusingly written, but that seems to be the summary of it.
Yeah, well, I think you could language front language. It's confusing.
Well, it's not that confusing. It just says like, to be eligible for a 3-to-1 match, you must have something by 2022. To be eligible for the 2-to-1 match, you must have something by 2024. Then it states no requirements for no additional requirements for the 1-to-1, but then at the bottom it says, any money that's distributed through this program that's not used by 2026 must be returned.
It's a blanket requirement.
Yeah, there's a blanket requirement for any unused money to be returned after 2026.
Yes, and my understanding is that there are even further amendments beyond that that hasn't been published yet.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I think one of
That's
them is
fine.
that it's going to be 16 instead of 12. Which is good.
Oh, 16 million, okay.
16.
That's great. But yeah, I'm going off what's on the public website right now, but the Clean Money campaign is the people behind this, so I'm sure they know all the non-public things that are going on.
Yes. Okay. Okay, and then I guess was the contract with Dominion approved before at our last meeting? I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was.
But we had a copy of the contract.
Yeah, but it was
It was
also
approved.
approved by that time, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And I learned yesterday that that they haven't actually received the new system yet.
Okay.
But I think it is on display in the lobby.
So I can't remember what we had discussed before, but I thought we had mentioned something about trying to find out some documentation on it, like what kind of exports they have.
Yeah.
Or something of that sort.
Yeah, I was going to hold myself back because I thought I could mention that under number 8.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, let's take.
I have one other
Oh.
item I just thought of. So I've been following the VVSG cybersecurity. So one sort of interesting discussion that's went on this week was sort of precinct count versus central count. So like, some people are advocating, like central count is like, much less expensive, and you only have one set of things to secure. Although personally I think securing a digital domain and physical domain is reinforced. And other people brought up that you know, marking devices and having your ability.
Can you repeat that last part again? What is easier to secure?
Well, they talk about the chain of custody. If you only, he was saying it's an advantage that you only have one physical thing.
In which case?
Central count, sorry. You secure the ballots in a ballot box and then take them all to a central location where they're processed.
So that's easier to secure or not? Okay.
It seems, well, it seems to me, he was saying, oh, you have the additional complexity of securing the digital domain, but it seems like that's not that hard, and it's a second independent level of security.
Okay. But before you move on though, I thought one of the advantages with the precinct counting is that you have to publicize the precinct counted numbers, so you kind of have that an indelible.
Oh, that's a argument that nobody had made.
Oh, because that's what they do in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other thing is that they were talking about people that could use a ballot marking device. You know, like there's some advantages for people with vision. But also that you have your undervotes and overvotes checked at the time you submitted it.
Well, this is a new topic or related to the?
No, this is
It's the same one. If you have a precinct scanner, then basically you can validate your ballot as it's being counted. So if it's like marked wrong or something, you have the ability to correct it.
Although if it's about marking device, the chances that there would be like an overvote are pretty.
Well,
Yeah.
But they're basically saying, you know, I guess it doesn't matter whether it's a central count for the ballot marking device or not.
Yeah, but what
They were kind of blending those arguments all
Right.
together.
If it's hand marked, then yes, a precinct scanner gives you validation features that you otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still good for protection against like malicious software on the device. Okay, interesting. And it's over email lists or?
Yeah.
And then can you tell us is it in some sort of a stage of approval? Like, do they issue a draft version?
I think it's in the stage of discussions because they keep having conferences going over points, so I think there's no like final draft or anything.
Okay.
And I don't know what the schedule is.
I thought there was some VSG document that was.
Yeah.
That was.
I mean, the whole thing got mean and vicious, but the discussion lately has been polite and informative.
That's good to hear. No one likes vicious discussions. Okay. All right, let's take public comment on this item. Seeing no members of the public. Anything else before we move on? Okay, next item.
Item number 7, digital signatures, discussion and possible action regarding digital signature recommendations and implementation.
Okay, so number 8.
So I wrote up this for purposes of our discussion. I was going to make some edits, but I figured I ran out of time to do significant improvements and figured we have enough to make some comments, so I can make some edits. Basically, the document is sort of 2 parts. One, recommendations, and then the second part is a sample implementation.
Yeah, I had a chance to read this through right before the meeting, so I have some copy edits that I can give to you.
Great.
Offline, but I also had some slightly more substantive comments. So in the appendix, in the appendix in general, you begin with like the stuff about data file collections and compressed archive files, and so you're talking about about zip files, and I think it says somewhere that the files in the zip file are like individually signed.
No.
Or did I
So
dream?
basically, the whole point here is that you're signing batches of files.
Right, and so
It's
you're
possible
signing
to
the
sign a
file.
subset, like if
Mhm.
you import files from some other location or transfer them, then subsets of the files could be signed.
Right, so now that I read this again, I think I just misread it. I think it does say that you, because it sounds like you only have like a file of SHA sums, and that's what you sign, right?
Correct.
Right,
And
okay.
but you could have, the idea is that you.
You could have multiple
Well,
SHA-SUM
you
files
basically
for-
create a SHA-SUM file that uses the standard format of the
Yeah.
SHA-SUM command line. So whether you use that command or not is irrelevant. It's
Yeah.
basically just a very simple format that's
Mhm.
the hash and the file name.
Yeah, so that is,
I think there's also a character that indicates whether it's a text file or not.
yeah, the space or the star thing, that's,
So if it's a text, and I think the SHA-SUM command sort of figures out if it's that or not, but what I also proposed was that if you want to assign a subset,
Yeah.
then you can use a suffix to
Yeah. design
so the standard file name, which I was thinking of changing it from SHA-256 sum.txt to capital SHA-256, which is what
Oh,
Chris
yeah.
was being used.
yeah.
So I think one advantage of that is that the file comes right at the beginning. So you
Yeah.
kind of separate the SHA
Yeah.
file from the
Yeah,
rest
it'll
of
be
it.
more likely to get this at the top.
And then I would propose maybe using a dash suffix for an alternative subset.
Yeah.
And then using a dot suffix use a dot sig,
Yes,
which
for
is sort of
signature.
standard for the
Yeah.
standalone digital signature, or something dot sig for a supplemental signature.
Yeah, that all sounds excellent. I like those changes. One thing that I wanted to point out about like the section about creating and verifying a digital signature, like X.3. where you
I might not have written it yet. Let's see, what did I say?
here,
Oh, okay.
yeah. You have like these commands about like here's how you produce the file, here's how you verify the file.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Oh, okay.
So
It
actually,
says in.
one thing is that,
Oh yeah, it says how to validate the SHA-SUMs in X.2, and then it says how to create and validate the signatures in X.3. I missed the fact at the end of X.2 where you do explain that, because it's like, the way I read X.3 is it like explains how you verify the signature, but then it doesn't, I at least initially didn't see it say that you also have to then verify that the hashes actually match the contents of the individual files.
yeah, so
You have to do
what I
both.
did, I might have done it after I wrote this,
Okay.
but I created a script
Mhm.
to sort of package the whole thing.
Okay, great, yeah.
And, well, actually, I wrote it in Perl, but I'm gonna rewrite it
Mhm.
in Python. But I was gonna propose that could we create another Git repo, like OSV crypto or something? So we can package all the scripts that deal with digital signatures and SHA-SUMs.
Yeah, I think it sounds okay.
I think that would be better than, like, I could stick it in the data converter repo, but I think it's nicer to
Yeah.
kind of make it standalone.
And these are utilities that would be used in like multiple different packages, right? These would be used in the result reporter, but also in the data. converter,
Everything,
also
yeah.
in-
So actually, you don't have to know all these commands, like if you want, I mean, I could demonstrate.
Yeah.
I guess I did, at our
Yeah, having-
supplemental meeting, but
yeah.
I just used like GPG sign.
Yeah.
And then it creates a signature, and then you can use -V to mean verify, and
Yeah, having those scripts will be very valuable, cause I think, cause right now you've like, the way it's structured in this draft is like, subsection 2 describes sort of like the inner layer of the onion, and subsection 3 describes the outer layer. So if you're building the onion, you're doing them in that order, but if you're verifying, you're doing them in reverse order. And so that's probably why I like why I missed it the first time while reading. Because when you're doing the verification, you actually have to like, everything runs in the reverse order. And you
so
have to do
so would it
pictures
make
from the being
more
recorded.
sense to like describe the script you know, the sample script and then describe what it does?
Yeah, maybe, or like.
Or put the script after the end and says, okay, all this other stuff we can.
I mean, would it make sense to put the common case first? Like the simpler case first?
It's not really about simple cases versus not simple cases. It's about like the one direction versus the other direction. Like when you're building versus when you're verifying.
Well, but I'm saying the verifying is maybe the more common case.
Oh, okay.
Remember, the public wouldn't necessarily have to build it, but they might want to verify it.
I think I just described it, here's how to create a signature, here's how to validate it.
Yeah, I think I would suggest the opposite actually, because in both cases, most of the language is about what it is and how to create it.
Yeah.
So another thing that you could do is like for the SHA sums, like what are they, how do you create them? Then for the signatures, what are they, how do you create them? And then like,
so maybe,
here's how you verify everything.
So maybe what's missing is what it is?
No. I think what you have now is, the way it's structured now is like, section 2 is explanation what a SHASM is, how to create a SHASMs file, how to verify a SHASM file.
Yeah.
And then section 3 is, what is a digital signature, how do you create it, how do you verify it.
Right.
But then what's missing or like implicit is that when you're verifying, you have to do them in the opposite order. So maybe like section 4 can be like, here's the steps of verifying.
So just put verification in as separate.
Yeah, it's like a separate thing, and then you explain like, you know, in order to verify, like starting with a zip file in order to verify, you get the SHASM file,
that's
you
more
verify
clear, because
signature,
then you can, so
Yeah.
here's how to create all the stuff,
Yeah.
and then here's how to validate it.
Yeah, because like the how to validate part, like right now it's split into the different sections,
Oh,
but it's only
okay.
like 10% of each section, right? Like it's
Yeah.
Are you saying divide a section or just reorder existing section?
I'm saying create a new section and take like the bottom 10% of each section and put it in,
okay.
combine it in there, but then the order ends up getting reversed because, yeah.
So in terms of the separate repo, is crypto maybe a little bit too broad?
Well, I just thought of having one repo, and then we could use like digital signatures, you know, as, I don't know what other code we might use.
I mean, maybe like crypto tools or something, or just like. 'Cause
Well,
they're
it
kinda
could
like
be crypto
scripts, right?
tools.
Yeah, I was actually gonna suggest the opposite direction, like having a utils repo for like utilities that are shared between projects in general.
Yeah, well, that's the other way. Then it becomes kind of like
A dumping ground.
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
so I just thought it would be useful to isolate,
Yeah.
you know, anything dealing with digital security. So
Yeah,
I just
crypto-
called it crypto because it's a trendy name.
well, that's kind of what I don't want it to sound too grandiose, like this, you know, it's like.
I'm happy for it to be called like crypto tools or security tools or whatever.
Or crypto utilities, or I don't know.
Yeah, anything.
Or crypto tools maybe is fine. What makes most sense?
What's better what do you like better, security or crypto?
Crypto is fine, because it's actually about encryption in this case, so.
Yeah, I mean, tools, utilities, utils, I mean, whatever.
Or we could call it security tools.
I don't know, let's just go with, I would like to just go with crypto tools.
Okay.
Okay.
Because crypto utils is too many syllables.
So,
Tired out and.
You get to say util and there's like one syllable before, but.
What about cryptotools?
Crypt utils, huh?
it sounds too much like PG&E.
I think this is a case where the person creating the repository gets.
Encrypted utilities. So I can't remember if I can create a repo or you have to do it, Chris.
I'll create it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can I take a 2-minute
yeah,
break?
sure.
I'll be right back. You need to read anything?
Okay. We could have a repo called Cyber.
There you go.
So wait, were you just saying that he's referencing signatures in X1 without having to sign off the R?
No, that's not what I was saying.
Okay. So never mind.
So I have some minor things that I can email to you later, Carl.
Okay.
I think I have one minor and one semi-substantive thing left after that. The minor thing is that I would suggest that the appendix and the section refer to each other. So that when we integrate this in a document that, maybe the intro to the appendix says like this, it says this appendix contains sample implementation of the digital signature requirements. And you could say of the digital signature requirements from section 6.11 point whatever. And conversely, the section 6.11 point whatever it is could refer to the appendix saying, see the appendix
Okay.
for.
So do you think it's a good idea to make this thing an appendix?
I think the thing that I think the way that you divided it into the recommendations document part and the appendix part is good. But I think then they should also point to each other.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah, so that you can easily find one from the other. And then the one other substantive thing that I wanted to, substantive thing that I wanted to suggest is there's a number of places where you talk about like requiring a special signature, especially for software. So there's a number of places, like for Secure Boot, for example, you say it would require a special digital signature, e.g. from a state voting certification, and there's other places where you say that the software should only operate with a special signature. I think what you mean there is like it should require that the signature was issued by that it was signed by like a trusted key.
Right.
Right.
So that was obvious to me when I wrote it,
Yeah.
but maybe I need to make that explicit.
I'll send you that as part of my copy edits email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
There's a
can
way
just
to
make
work-
that clear to say, maybe it just deserves a whole nother section, and I can't remember now if I put that in there, but there's the whole idea of, a chain of authorized signatures.
Yeah, I think there's something about it somewhere.
And I didn't get around to writing the section in the appendix for, how to create these certificate chains.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I'll send you an email later with like just more minor things like that. And that's, other than the things that I don't want to bore everyone else with, that's all I have.
Did you have any, like, just suggestions of things that are missing or, maybe, should be redone, or?
I guess you said you wanted to write about certificates, so I guess it's part of like creating and managing keys and publishing valid keys.
I don't remember,
There's, maybe,
I don't remember if I
maybe the
wrote-
recommendations section as opposed to maybe the recommendation section as opposed to the appendix section could mention the fact that you can have like, that certificates are a thing that you can use to have like one key vouch for another key.
So I think I didn't make a section on certificates and, validating
Mhm.
keys. But that's probably need to add that.
You mean there's already a section elsewhere in the document about it?
No, there isn't, it's missing.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I'm saying not only should there be stuff in the appendix about how that stuff all works, but there should probably also be some mention in the main recommendation.
Yeah, so
section, like-
I somehow missed that when I was writing this, that part of the requirements of the system is a methodology for creating authorized certificates, and then adding,
Like-
a process for collecting the authorized keys or
Yeah.
authorized certificate chains.
Right, having chains of authorization for.
So like, if you don't have any certificate authority, then you have to self-certify.
Yeah, but
then
yeah.
like the San Francisco Department of Elections could create a master key, so.
Yeah, I mean, you're still describing structurally the same system, right? There's a root key somewhere that all the trust flows from.
Right.
The difference is just, does San Francisco own the root key or does the state?
So actually, there's a nice reference. I was eventually planning to include it maybe in the appendix, but it's sort of how to like set up your keys.
Mhm.
So it basically just gives you all the GPG commands, but
Oh, yeah,
he's
yeah.
advocating, oh, you should like download and boot, an independent, Linux kernel so that
Mhm.
you can create your keys, your master key for everything, and then store a couple copies of that.
Right.
And then you use that, you create a bunch of real keys that you store on your YubiKeys, and then those can be certified. So you can
Mhm.
like have one master key that says, this is the San Francisco Department of Elections, and
Right.
these are the keys that, the director or whoever
Yeah.
has authorized, and then like your individual like voting systems each would have its own like hardware key.
Yeah.
And
They're
then,
assigned by
maybe
that.
each voting machine would have a hardware key.
Mhm.
And then you could even do it where on election day, there's a temporary key created, within each machine that's destroyed, it's created before votes are counted and then destroyed at the end of the day. So that, and then it uses the hardware key of the machine itself to validate the software.
Yeah.
But I think that's sort of too much detail for what we want to put in
Yeah,
here,
and-
other than mentioning, maybe the possibility that.
Yeah,
you
but
can
I
use
feel
that.
like at least, the recommendation section should probably at least mention like that certificates are a technology for having chains of.
Right, and
Change
then,
of authority, and then you should make it-
initially it might be, a department self-certified root key.
Yeah.
And then, but eventually it could be like a Secretary of State's authorization, so
Yeah.
you could use one authorization for the whole state.
Yeah, and the magic of the way that all works is that you wouldn't even have to change the keys when that happens, right? Like the
Well,
secretary
anyone
in charge
can,
of it.
yeah, so, but the thing is that the usual set of root keys used in browsers are not really appropriate.
No, sorry, what I mean is, if you later set up a statewide framework for that, you can think of the way where like the state signs the.
Right, and,
cities,
and then you could have the Federal Election Commission.
Yeah, exactly. When they
Certify
got
the
stuff together.
state ones,
Yeah.
and then you only have one for the whole country.
But yeah, whatever, yeah, I'm sure that like there's a level of detail of that's too much and a level of detail that's appropriate, but,
So anyway,
Yeah, it should
I
probably
forgot,
be something should probably
I
be-
did write the Secretary of State,
oh,
uh,
oh yeah. you
asking
said-
about, if they've considered using digital signatures for election data, but there's no response.
That new.
Well, I wrote him
cybersecurity-
after I didn't get I wasn't able to ask a question when he gave a talk.
No, was this, was the group that you emailed, was it the Secretary of State, or was it the new like cybersecurity?
No, it was just the Secretary of State's office commenting on his speech, but then no response, so.
Maybe I'm gonna try giving him a call. No, but you could ask him who I should contact, who you should contact.
Oh, okay.
Because it's probably just gonna go into like a.
Well, it got black holed. So I was just gonna see if I could get something, but I think they haven't thought of it and don't want nerdy guys interfering. So I think demonstrating it is the best introduction.
Mhm.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to do more than skim this right now, but I like the level of detail. I think it's appropriate.
So I tried to, just keep it somewhat concise, but list
Right.
everything and then more general requirements as
So,
opposed.
in terms of organization, if there's something that needs to be defined that sort of has more like of a longish definition, would that, in the way you're organizing it, would that go in the recommendations or in the appendix?
Well, I had originally written an appendix on, well, I wrote a section on security that explained like all these concepts, so, and then I think we all kind of agreed it belonged kind of as a standalone appendix. So,
Is any
like,
of that here?
no, so I guess in here, it could make references to that appendix for certain terms.
Did we already approve that?
No, we kind of, I wrote it and then I guess there was some suggestions to redo.
Well, maybe if there's parts of it that are applicable to this, like
So
the
maybe I could
stuff-
excerpt out some
yeah,
that are.
like the certificate stuff, or
Well, so mainly it was more like a glossary type thing where it took the well, not a glossary of words, but a glossary of concepts. Like what is a digital fingerprint,
Yeah.
or hash, and how, what's.
Yeah, so right now, as this is written, it doesn't define what a digital signature is, but it sort of assumes that the reader knows that, or can look it up.
but the suggestion that you're making to him, did it involve like describing what it is in the appendix? Or?
No, the suggestion that I made to him was, I mean, it's not like it completely doesn't introduce the concepts. It will have like one sentence saying what a digital signature is, for example. So I was saying, for the certificate change stuff, do something similar, like in one sentence say like, a digital or a certificate is a technology that lets you do X, and it should be used in this way.
So like here's one of the set bullet points here is software packaged into containers should have digital signatures associated with the container file and validated at least upon system startup. So
Yeah.
I don't bother defining container, but
Right.
that would be a good place to reference containers in the security summary reference.
Yeah, but I also feel like, there's also a balance where like you don't have to define every single term. People can look things up.
Right.
And
So, but the part of the point of the appendix is to, get people to be aware of what the
Yeah.
concepts are and what they should know about and consider.
yeah, that's fair.
In more details, than just.
Yeah. Yeah, so like, excerpts from your previous glossary for terms that are relevant here could be
Well,
helpful.
then also on organization, if you want to define something, would you rather put it in the appendix or in the glossary?
Well, what I had was more an appendix. Well, one, because it grouped together all the things that were kind of like security, and also it was not just words, but more generic concepts.
So maybe one way to divide it would be if like a glossary could have like 1 or 2 sentence description, but like the appendix could have.
So like you might have container as a glossary item,
Yeah.
but then you might have a section in the security that describes what containers are and what they do and how they work and why you'd want to use them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's all good.
So then.
The other thing, this only covers signatures, like section 611.1, but maybe there should be like a 611.2 is like authenticating access to machines.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like what, we were
What we were
talking
right
about,
before the meeting, yeah.
second, what do you call it, two-factor authentication. Like a recommendation could be that hardware keys are required to access voting software.
Yeah, because I'm forgetting the terminology, because like public private keys are also used for authentication sometimes.
Right. So the thing is that if there's a vote counting system or even an EMS, if somebody has to have a key to plug into the port on the computer to be able to log into the software, then they can't just use phishing to steal your credentials and then hack into the system. That you have to know the password as well as have a physical key that can be stored and maybe even secured in a safe or something like that. you know, outside of times, but, I mean, that's more a procedural issue. That the issue is that when people are writing software and creating the systems, then it should be based on, you know,
Yeah.
cryptographic authentication for access.
Mhm.
I don't think we have to say too much, maybe just a couple, you know, a few bullet points.
Yeah, but yeah, I think that's right. I think that would be good too.
So maybe for, one request I have is if you wanna, maybe like, for the next meeting, if you have a new version that incorporates his feedback, and then if there's new material, keep that separate from the stuff we discussed today, and that way we can kind of like approve what we've had a chance to discuss.
Yeah, I can,
Does that make sense?
or somehow I can highlight, you know, what's new, like if I insert a section or something.
Well, I just meant like, if we're like 85% of the way on something and then there's like completely new material, then it would be nice to be able to.
Separate those.
Yeah.
Right, so you're saying separate like the
already
fixed up
written.
version of this from like the brand new stuff that we talked about,
Okay.
like the 6.11.2 stuff.
If it's just a couple of new sentences, that's fine, but if it's like a new topic, just keep it separate.
Oh, okay.
Like authentication stuff would be a new topic.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, there's a bunch of stuff that's to do, but they're more like at the end of the
Okay.
document, so it's not a,
Yeah, might
that
be-
won't be. So would you like to, like, have some time to think about all this stuff and email me?
Sure.
Any comments
I
that
can
you
do
would
that.
like?
Yeah. And then you can just get started on the crypto tools.
Yeah, if you can create the repo, then I'll,
And then what are some of the scripts you have in mind?
I only have one right
Oh, just
now,
one, okay.
but I haven't looked into, what kind of crypto Python libraries have. So, what I have is based on the generic GPG and SHA command line utilities
Mhm.
that are kind of widely available.
Do you already have a wrapper for the SHA-256 cents?
Yeah, oh, I have one script that's a wrapper for everything. So there's one command that does everything.
Okay.
And so I was gonna write a sort of similar wrapper script.
Okay.
So I think you also have a script in one of our repos somewhere that does SHA sums.
Yeah, there's I think you're talking about the thing that I was talking to you about after the special meeting as we were walking out of the library. This is the update test expectation script where it uses a SHA-256 style to, for the unit test expectations.
It's just a Python wrapper on the command built-in command.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so
I
it's
thought
not
you
that.
used a library routine to do it, but.
I don't think so, but it's only like 5 or 6 lines. I mean, it's.
I know, it's not, but I mean, there's a library that does SHA sums
There,
too.
there may have been something for like recursing the subdirectories I had to do, but
Oh.
it doesn't natively do that.
Oh, so you used the command line utility? Or did you use a Python library?
Well, I wrote a Python function that calls the command line, like.
Oh, okay.
on
Okay, so
directories
that,
or something, I don't know.
oh, okay, so then that's what, it's sort of similar to what my
Yeah,
script
okay.
does.
Okay. Sounds good. So anything else in this? All right, let's take public comments. Seeing no members of the public. So do you have enough guidance then for the next meeting?
I think so.
Okay, great. Next item.
Item number 8, voting system component development. Discussion, possible action regarding OSVTAC developing and or facilitating the development of one or more voting system components as a proof of concept.
Okay, so we had our special working meeting, and also, I don't know, do you wanna like give a summary of what's happened since then, or? like-
Oh, I guess I finished fixing all the issues, although I haven't updated documentation. So that's one thing I haven't done is gone through. So one of the problems was that we did all this stuff on the fly. And so.
That's not a problem, I mean, it worked fine.
Well, I'm just saying, so when I wrote the conversion software, it was sort of based on my memory of what we slopped together, as opposed to reading a data definition document and making sure. So it took a little bit of time to update all the conversion scripts so everything was in line. So,
I wonder if you can use this browser.
I think there's an HDMI cable.
Well, Tony knew had a way to like actually pull up the browser
Oh,
built into the.
oh, there's a PC there? Well, maybe it works. Let's see, we just have to turn on.
Yeah,
the-
so Carl and I went back and forth a little bit. We got the demo rendering against the June and
Oh,
November
great.
elections.
So I think we just need to turn the TV on.
And I see that, I saw an email from you that I didn't have time to respond to, that, some of the things that I asked for, like the winter stuff, is now there.
Yeah, yeah, and we can spend this later talking about that.
Yeah. And so that means that I'm unlocked on doing some of the work, I just haven't, had time this month to.
That's not it. So, let's see, I hate these TVs, mine automatically goes to Netflix no matter what.
There you go, internet.
PC.
Or,
Well, let's see if the PC works.
yeah.
All right, is the PC turned on? Yeah, it looks like it. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay, so now we can.
Okay. So this is the November, so Carl, pretty much did all the work of getting this all converted out from the.
Nice.
And then, Rowan, your graphics are here.
Oh, yeah, cause it's the RCV races.
Oh, is it only on RCV?
Yeah, so the.
Oh, you only modified the RCV template, or?
Well, the RCV template is the only one that has percentages right now. We need to modify the templates for non-RCV races to be more useful.
And it has this too.
Great, yeah.
So those are the
That's
elimination
the
round?
table, yeah. For
Oh,
the
so,
G4.
but it doesn't show the highest number of votes a candidate gets?
No, because he's only implemented that in the back end like a week or two ago,
Oh,
and I haven't had time to.
oh, okay.
He emailed me saying that it was done, but then I didn't have time to actually use it in my code.
So one of the issues I had was that I kind of assumed that data would kind of go forward from the EMS to the output, but, we don't have like that data flow. So I had to write software to work backwards, because you have things like, how precincts are combined and what totals are used and all of that. So normally you would compute that from like your precinct district, cross-reference, which is in your EMS. But I didn't have that, so I had to work backwards and then correlate stuff from the input to the output and feed that back into the election JSON. So the JSON files that we have assume that data flow, and so put things that are not changing in the election definition file.
Yeah.
So anyway, it took like a little bit of matching things up, in the different databases to get it all working, but it's all implemented now.
Yeah, so, I thought maybe what we could do, spend a little bit of time, is talk about, like what our next steps are.
Yeah.
And then,
So the other thing that you almost showed is that while I was testing.
You wanna go show something? Or?
Sure, we just go back and. So, I noticed while I was doing some testing that I made it, that had a bug and then the Python crashed because, well, the bug was that it produced a 0 in there for vote totals. And of course, when you're computing percentages,
Yeah.
like you get a divide by 0 error. So, well, I fixed it and then mentioned it to Chris, but then I wrote a little option in my data converter to create a fake 0 result
Mhm.
data so we could test
Yeah.
the templates with no votes.
The Department of Elections actually also puts out 0 reports for.
Almost everybody does ahead of time. So normally you get the 0 report file, you know, prior to the first. You can click on RCB.
It also works for RCB too.
Yeah. Although, actually, I had one
Sorry.
issue. Can you go back to that? So like, shouldn't this column be missing for the first round?
The transfer column being all zeros, you mean?
Well, no, you don't have a transfer column. You have votes, percentage.
Is this only present for the 0 report? Or is it-
I don't know, can you go back, maybe go to a regular and look at that? Look at an RCB file.
Yeah, I forget what the non-degenerate case looks like. There you go, and then go to RCB
Click
rounds.
RCB rounds. Yeah, this is like.
Yeah, the first
focus.
transfer column should be,
The round one shouldn't have a transfer
Okay,
column.
that's easy to fix.
yeah. Yeah, you're right, there shouldn't be a transfer column around.
We could do that.
One of the weird things that does happen in RCB results.
So is
report-
this the highest number of votes?
No, that's eliminated.
Oh, this is.
Red is eliminated.
But this is the highest number of votes. So like,
No, it's
No.
not.
The
This-
highest number of votes is not highlighted in this view, because I didn't have the.
no, I'm just saying when a candidate's eliminated,
Oh, that's
this
the highest
number
number
is
of votes.
actually the negative number of the votes that they got.
Yeah, well, it highlights in red the round where they get eliminated, so in that round, they lose all their votes, yeah.
So anyway, I'm just saying, I was saying we should highlight the highest number of votes each candidate gets.
That's.
Well, that's
what-
in the main overview, yeah.
That's what we're saying, that's his to-do that he's
Oh, it's
doing.
it's
Yeah.
not in the main one.
Well,
but
no, it is in the main one, actually. That number, the highest number of votes that every
Yes.
candidate gets,
Oh, so if you
that
go
number is
back-
actually, if you go back to the main one, that number is there. So it's like 4,927 for Skylar Hudak. You can
Oh,
see-
yeah. So the other thing to talk about, that, you know, probably is the next thing for me, is to put, winning status on all the contests.
Yeah, because what does Board of Education look like in this? Did you import that?
What's that?
And it-
Did you end up importing Board of Education because it
It's
has?
up,
Yeah.
it's up, it's up.
Oh, it's up.
No, this is one of the things that hasn't been done yet.
It's in here.
Right there, you got it.
No, that's community, that's, City College Board, yeah, oh, there's Board of
Here
Education.
we go, well, there's a community college board, or here's the Board of
There's Board of
Education.
Education.
And this is, three,
Yeah.
there's 3 winners.
Exactly, and this isn't, yeah, I need to do a lot of work in the presentation of these tables, because it's not even ordered by vote total yet. But also, we need to know who the winners are.
Yeah, well, so this is what I had suggested you work on next.
Yeah, so,
So he's blocked on that right now.
yeah, so I'll have that done
Yeah.
probably Tuesday or Wednesday
Cool.
next week, so everything will be ready for us
For
to
the
tweak
special meeting
templates
Sunday.
on Sunday.
Cool, yeah, because I will try to do some stuff this weekend, but then I'm out, for a work trip next week, so. By the time you do that, I will just see it when I come back on the weekend.
The RCB is doable though.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on it this weekend. but-
So, yeah,
And at
so.
least I can like sort this by total vote, right? Because even if we don't know how many, even if I don't know how many winners to highlight, like there's no reason that someone who got like almost no votes is at the top.
So I suggest we add a filter or alternative attribute to access choices by, you know, sorted by vote count, or maybe sorted alphabetically.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure why we need alphabetic, but, I don't know, somebody might wanna produce some
Well,
sort of report.
How how about, could I do that one?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah,
okay.
no, I was just gonna suggest that we do that. So like if you have if you had like a candidate filing list or something like that, then you might wanna sort candidates by name, by last first name, as opposed to filing date or something like that. But normally we'd have ballot order. But then after results, we want to have we may want to sort by votes.
Yeah.
This is very.
Oh, the other thing that Chris mentioned was like to have a table of contents at the top of the page for quick links.
Yeah, so, so the thing I wanted to do next was, yeah, I wanted to have a table of, well, it's actually two things. One would be, each page at the top should have let you choose the language, and then it'll flip to that page with
Oh,
that
okay.
language. And then the summary should have a table of contents for all the contests.
Yeah, and I was thinking also on the detailed result page, you could have a link to the like neighborhood totals or CD
Oh,
totals. Yeah, so you don't have to scroll through 600.
Oh, yeah, well, or they could, the areas could be sorted by like, in decreasing order of size, right? You could start with all precincts and then like the CDs, the supervision order districts, and then the neighborhoods and then the individual
Should
precincts.
it even be its own table, like a separate?
Oh, the precincts could be separate even from aggregations, yeah.
So actually, so what we could do is write a template loop that looped over categories
Yeah.
of subtotals, and then, so that way you could access them in
Yeah.
category order. Although, one of the things I have to do is, there's classification of precinct versus others, but we need a classification for all of the district types.
Yeah, I like the classifications for those, yeah.
So this is,
I'm also, in
Is-
that giant table, by the way, I'm also gonna make the table headers be sticky.
What's that?
I'm also gonna make the table headers sticky, it's pretty easy to do.
Oh.
Because when you scroll down to one of the ones that's buried at the bottom, you don't know, like you see a bunch of cells, but you don't know what they mean anymore, because the table
Oh,
header is
okay.
like.
So how are you
several
gonna
screens
do
away.
that?
There's a new CSS property that lets you do that.
so this is the one, Carl, that you need to do.
Yeah.
But I would do the winner.
Yeah, I'll do that first.
Um, Yeah, one thing I was able to finish was this issue.
Which is.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
So we can work through Docker now.
Okay, so my list of things to do for this weekend is to, Chris fixed the issue of like having per round leading candidates in RCV rounds, I think you said. So I will, now that data is available, I'll use it in the template.
So did you write some software to like resort or something?
No, I think I
Or
had already,
compute?
I think I had already been computing the max. But
Oh, okay.
I just added like an attribute to.
So in your RCV table, were those sorted by votes
Yeah.
in the final round?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's the best way.
Yeah.
That's what the Dominion system does.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Another, eventually a fun one to, this can be for some later time, but I think it's what year was this? I think it's the 2010 District 10 supervisor election is an excellent example of people like changing the order of who's the leading candidate, like changing hands a bunch of times in the RCV elimination rounds. Like the eventual winner starts as in like third place, and like a lot of things happen as candidates get eliminated because it was like a huge open seat election with like more than a dozen candidates and like 4 or 5 major candidates.
Well, the top 5 are split. They're like separated within a 1 percentage point.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're all super close together, and then who's leading it, like the order of the top 5 changes around a bunch of times, and eventually someone wins who was not the leader in first choice votes. So that's an example that at some time in the future would be fun to import. Because in a lot of the 2018 results, I don't think there was any case where like the eventual winner was not also the first choice leader in the first round. Which is, by the way, when you said about a transfer column, I'll add that too, like I should hide the first transfer column. One fun issue that you do get with RCV results reporting is that the way the city currently reports it, the number of first choice votes, actually I think this is consistent now. What they report as first choice votes is actually like collapsed first choice votes. So if people undervote their first choice, then like their second choice becomes their first choice.
Actually I found, and I verified it by going through all the data, but in the Dominion reports, the first and second column were identical in every contest. So I eliminated it when I converted it.
Right.
Well, that was for a different reason though. It's because they were eliminating the write-in.
Yeah, they are eliminating the write-in.
Oh, yeah, they also, so, now my understanding it is the San Francisco RCV methodology allows more than one candidate to be eliminated in a round?
Yes, and in fact, there is some state legislation floating around right now that would legalize RCV for more jurisdictions. And that legislation also spells out in detail how this works, how you do like multi-candidate eliminations in the same round.
So basically it's, you can eliminate multiple candidates as long as it's guaranteed there's, no matter what the results are. Basically it's just the sum total of all the votes are less than the next candidate that could be eliminated.
If the candidate and plus all the candidates below them have
more votes than all the candidates below, then all those get eliminated.
Yeah, so exactly. If there's a candidate A who has more votes than all the candidates below them combined, then A survives with all the candidates below them.
So basically, if the first choice has that property, then the elimination rounds end.
Yes.
Otherwise, you keep going down one by one until you find one.
Well, they have a majority in that case.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's a good one.
Yeah, this rule is actually, it's not just in state law proposed, it's also in San Francisco's charter.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that when they were legislating RCV for state law, I'm sure someone looked at San Francisco charter for it.
So normally, you can put like all your write-ins and everything in, well, I think undervotes are a little weird. I mean, because normally you just want to reorder them.
Yeah, that's what happens now, that they don't.
So you like if you have a undervote in the first column, then you move it to the last choice, so that their first choice is actually the one.
Is what their second choice was. Yeah, which is why if you download the ballot image and like count up all the first choices, you get slightly lower numbers than the actual reported first choice totals because they do that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it makes sense to do that.
Yeah, it makes sense to do that. Yeah, exactly. So
Well,
leading undervotes just get collapsed away.
The thing is, I mean, really the results report, the department shouldn't even be reporting the raw first choices.
Oh, no, and I don't think they do. I mean,
I think in
What
the statement of vote they do, I think.
So a lot of jurisdictions, they don't process RCV till like 2 days after the election, whereas San Francisco seems to do instant RCV processing with each subtotal.
Even San Francisco has intermediate reports that do not do RCV processing.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, so on election night, they do, like 45 minutes after the polls close, they release a report that's just like the vote by mails from before the weekend.
Oh.
And that's a full report. But then, and at the end of the night, they release a report that includes all of the precinct data, as well as all of the BBM, as well as the.
Oh, so basically they reduce summary reports.
Yeah, exactly. So those are full reports. Like report 1 and report 4 are full reports.
Oh, okay.
But they have 2 reports in between at 9:45 p.m. and 10:45 p.m. that are summary reports that contain like part of the precinct, data, but not all of it yet, because not all of it's in yet. And those reports do not run the RCV elimination.
Oh, okay.
So you just have first choice totals for those.
And Chris, I assume you compute the transfer votes as just the difference between columns?
See, actually, you can see it right here. I'll show you what I was talking about. So, like, in this election, Gordon Marr,
Yes, 13,249.
so what does he have in the first round?
Yeah, it's less than that.
10,000, yeah.
But if you go to the detailed results,
Oh yeah, it's actually slightly lower, yeah.
so this is the precinct level, this is like the statement of vote. It's
Oh,
only
yeah,
using
you're right.
raw first choices.
Yeah, that is using raw first choices.
So what's in the
Yeah.
summary then?
The
So he had-
transfer, it takes into account.
Yeah, he has like 25 votes fewer in the statement of vote sum total than he does in the beginning, in the first round of RCV, because there's like 25 people that put him second and put undervote first.
So this round one reflects advancing past the skip rankings.
Yeah, but the statement of vote doesn't.
Yeah, but we don't really have to worry about that for.
We can worry about that some future time. In any case, other things that I wrote down for me to do was making the result tables for non-RTV races more useful. Because right now they're like not sorted by vote total, or I don't think they have percentages. They don't indicate who the winner is and any of that. I don't think I can indicate the winner until Carl does his thing, but I can at least, as an interim measure, highlight like the top vote getter, and then it'll just be wrong for school board races. The detailed per precinct reports should have floating table headers so that you actually know what you're looking at when you're scrolled halfway down the page. And as Carl said, ideally we would have a better taxonomy for like what the different kinds are so that we can run them.
So shall I announce availability of the winning status in the issue tracker on GitHub?
If you could email me when it's done, that would be great.
Yeah. So, I guess there's two aspects. One is getting it in the data, and then also, I'm not sure if we need to write any Python.
Yeah, I don't know how basically any of the data model works, which is why I'm letting you and Chris.
But either Chris or I could do that. But I actually had one question I wanted to discuss with you two when you're ready.
I'm done, so.
I have like a set of proposed like single letter status codes for winning status. So the question I had was, how should we map those into words? Like do we want to use like the translate feature, and where should we stick those translations or phrases? Like how do we map the code into a phrase that can be used, or do you build it directly into the template?
I think
like as an if statement, or
feature, because we already have. I mean, a lot of the translations are things that are unique, that are specific to a contest or specific to an election, but some things aren't, right?
Or should we make a filter for that, like that invokes the translation?
What do you mean by a filter?
Well, it's a Jinja filter. You can take the attribute called winning status dot translate or something, and then
okay, I see.
But the thing is that we probably want to stick a prefix on the to get the translate key. You'd want to combine like winning status underscore with the letter so that you have a unique code to use
that
the
was
translate
exactly
table.
my suggestion. Like have it be in the translate stuff, but then have a key prefix. Yeah.
So are the translations included in the JSON file now, or do we have those in a separate file? I can't remember.
Well, I'm a little confused what you're asking, because.
Oh, so I have a code to represent winning status, but we want to be able to print that somehow, or.
Well. Yeah, I guess in some cases you might need to, but.
I mean, the way I would do it is. I mean, I would have a table that within the JSON that is it's a dictionary that maps the code to the international phrase for that.
You mean the key for the translate table?
But we probably already have translation data for other generic terms, right? Like total and election day summary results and precinct reporting and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Not election specific data, but generic stuff.
Well,
Presumably, we have a translation file somewhere that.
So, but basically what you're saying, we don't use the translation table indirectly, but the JSON file should define those types that are used as its own JSON definition. Like,
Yeah.
you know, basically we put the enumerated type definition as a JSON element in every election definition.
Every election definition.
it could be hard coded or it could be in the JSON. It doesn't matter. But I don't think I'm not a huge fan of prefixes as conventions because let's see, where is
So like words like detailed report, like things that are not part of the election definition but are part of the software, where is that? Where are translations for those terms defined right now?
I don't know, I think the election JSON might have everything in it. Does it have a translate at the end? Yeah. Even the translations are in the election file.
Sure, but like words like precincts reporting and detailed reports I guess that might be in the template directly, like.
well, no, I think we should be expanding this. This is actually one of the tasks.
Okay, but what I mean is, if you go to like the Spanish overview of the election, right?
There is no, actually, I advocate doing that, having separate templates for each language.
No, but I mean, we have all these, translated words. When we render, can you show me like ORR's rendering of the Spanish version of something?
Well, this is where it's encoded.
Yeah, but can you show me an HTML page that's from ORR that's in Spanish? Like.
Or actually, looking at the template is more.
Oh, okay, so the terms are in Spanish, but a lot of the.
Oh, actually, that comes from the JSON file.
Right.
Not the translation.
So we haven't actually translated our user interface to Spanish.
Oh, yeah, what about the heading?
Exactly, the heading.
Oh, is that also in the JSON file?
There is an issue about this, I think, already.
So we have translated election definitions, we don't have translated user interface at all.
Where is it?
It might be.
Yeah, we don't have any words in the user interface.
Yeah, this is the one.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah, okay, so we never.
It's already to do, but.
Yeah.
No, we actually had a debate about this earlier where it's like, if you have a contest, should the translations be in line versus should it reference a translation table? Because like if like supervisor is listed 4 times on the ballot, do you want to have like all the translations of supervisor repeated for each one, or should it reference, so.
Well, just the way the data comes in.
Right.
It comes in that way, so.
Yeah.
It's just an extra processing step to indirect it.
But in this case, it's like these phrases we're using that are kind of separate from.
Yeah, they're part of the user interface of the presentation as a result, so not part of the election definition at all.
So we're gonna have to go through and do that.
Yeah, and I think the terminology for winner because also right now I don't see an immediate case where we would print those terms.
So actually there's one, well, you might like have a check mark or something, you know, and then like have a heading that says check marks indicates winners.
Yeah, so there's like a legend or something of what.
Yeah. So like some of the obscure cases are like a tie.
Yeah.
And then you may have like a tie that's been resolved by, by lot is the legal term, but coin toss is like.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, whether it's a winner by tiebreak versus just a winner, I think it's more important just to have whether they're a winner.
Yeah.
It's like, you could be like winner by.
So actually,
it's like.
Yeah. But I guess at this point we shouldn't necessarily worry about like translating all those.
Because normally you want to do it by color or mark or highlight or something.
Yeah.
Like well, the other thing is that for a contest we could have a pass fail, like a ballot measure. You don't need to indicate the winner. You can indicate the winner on the choice, but normally you want for the contest as a whole to also have a pass-fail if it's a question.
And for it to know what its threshold is.
And then you get more complicated things if you have a recall, whether,
Yeah. Where there's
like a candidate wins because, or doesn't win, is leading, but it doesn't win
Yeah.
because the recall failed.
Yeah.
No, but these are like edge cases that are not, I mean. we're not
But
even-
yeah, so we actually don't have to worry about it for next week.
Yeah, for now, let's not worry about like what win statuses are called either, because we don't have any UI translations yet, so.
But I mean, I know all the cases, so I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
include them,
Yeah,
just
that's
to
true.
define them.
When we write this.
But-
I think the way I would do it, I think they should just be hard-coded in the code for now. But they should be documented, remember, in the Markdown file?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, right, because everything else in the UI is also hard-coded English, so then when we switch away from hard-coded English to having a real translation system, we can sweep that up as well.
so like one of the things, and I guess we actually don't have to worry about it for now, like if you have a tie, normally you put like an asterisk or something.
Yeah,
And then you put a footnote.
yeah,
And there's some things now, like maybe in the Dominion system, it always inserts the footnote. Even
Yes.
if the case doesn't exist, like it says, tie
Well,
votes are resolved by lot or something like
the
that.
case often does exist because there's often a tie between two zeros.
Well, that doesn't matter.
No, I know, but that's still, depending on how you write your software, that might still be a tie.
No, it's only tied for winning.
Well,
Or there's
no,
actually tied
be.
for elimination.
Exactly. So two
Uh,
zeros are tied with each other for elimination, depending on how you
Oh,
split things.
but zeros always get eliminated because
know.
there are always more
But
than.
if you poorly define your ties, then
Yeah,
which I
except
think
that,
the domain does.
and for the zero report, they're not tied. They're also not tied.
Yeah, that would eliminate. Okay, anyway, yes.
Oh, and I think I answered my question, Chris, that I think winning status will only be in the JSON file. I'm not gonna try to put it in the TSV file.
Okay, good. Yeah, good. Okay. So in the first iteration, what are you gonna have for winning status? Do you know?
Yeah, it'll just be winning status, colon, and then the code letter.
No, I know, but how many code letters are you gonna have in the first iteration? Like, I think, like, just 3, I mean, it could be like, candidate, winner, measure, pass, I mean.
We might have pass fail for measures, and then winning, well, the question is, do we wanna put like a losing status or?
I would just do the
defeating
minimum
status?
so he can do his highlighting.
Yeah, in the interim, as long as I know who won, like, which can be multiple people. So I
Yeah.
can do highlighting of who won, that would be whatever gets you there the fastest.
So
We
there's
can
two
always-
things that, on a choice, there'll be like a W for winner.
Mm-hmm.
And then, maybe for the question itself, which is not on a choice, it will also have a pass-fail.
But aren't yes and no choices as well?
What's that?
Aren't yes and no?
Yes,
Okay,
but you,
so the
like,
one
you
of
might
those
wanna,
choices will win.
well, you could so you could do one of two things.
Yeah.
You could put a check mark on the yes or no,
Oh, right, or you can put an extra check mark by the measure.
or you could have a different way, like on Smart Voter, we have a thumbs up
Yeah,
or thumbs
right.
down next to each measure to say whether it passed or
Yeah,
failed.
yeah, yeah.
Well, so, cause there's another approach too is, like for measures and for candidate races, you can say which choice won, and then
Yeah.
you can have a separate attribute saying like, what does winning this mean? Like, you get that from the fact that it's a measure, not from the winning status.
So for June, one of the statuses will be to go to runoff. There's a difference between, like the judges, they might win altogether.
Mhm.
If they get more than 50% of the votes, they win. Otherwise, the top 2 go to a runoff.
Right.
And then for the state primary offices, all of them,
The top two.
the top 2, even if one of them gets 90% of the votes,
Yeah.
you still have a runoff between the top two.
Yeah, but that can be, I mean, there's a way of organizing where that's a property of the contest rather than.
Right, what happens if you?
Well, but I'm just saying that you'll have one winner or two winners
Yeah,
in the contest depending on
yeah, right.
its status. But the contest definition itself has to have the information necessary to figure that out.
So to begin with, for candidate contests, let's just like have whether they're a winner or not. And for measures, I guess the yes and no choices, one of them can just be the winner.
Well, we'll have that.
Yeah, okay, great.
So then we may also have a separate
Yeah.
attribute in the, we could call it something different, it's like pass-fail status or something, instead of winner.
But the winner stuff is like the minimum thing that we need now to like make stuff work.
Right.
So let's do that.
So we'll have that, and it's easy to do for November.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing I need for November really is, I have to look to see which measures have more than 50% approval, and then just write a config file entry for the data converter so it knows. But
Thresholds work.
I can also stick that in the election JSON.
What threshold?
Approval required.
For the threshold?
Yeah, so there's
That's
majority
one-
approval.
That's one of the issues, actually.
There's, you have majority approval, 55% or 2/3
Yeah.
For San Francisco.
There's, as Chris says,
Oh,
there's actually an issue.
and there's also advisory vote only, which is equivalent to majority,
Yeah.
I would say, is, I would check, I would put a winning status on advisory vote only, even though there's no significance to it. I don't know how many of
Those
those.
just have 50% thresholds, right? Like that's-
Well, there is no threshold.
Yeah, but-
Because it's an
yeah, but
But
advisory.
do you understand what I'm saying about how like the meaning of winning it can be determined from the type of contest. It doesn't have to be a separate status element,
The what?
Like, the meaning of what it means to win can be
Oh, that's independent,
a
yeah.
function of the type of contest it is rather than having a designated status.
Yeah.
I didn't follow that.
So he's saying that like in like,
Advisory.
runoffs versus, like primaries versus runoffs, right? Like, the winner flag would be the same.
Yes.
For the candidate, and just like the type of the contest has information about what it means, what happens when you win.
Right, but I have a different status code for moving to runoff than winning, but you could display it both like as a
Yeah.
check. You don't have to make a
Yeah,
distinction necessarily between winning altogether and moving to
Right, we don't
runoff.
have to render a distinction. Yeah,
Except that
okay.
if it's, you might want to put like a footnote or something,
Mhm.
just to say, runoff on,
Yeah, I
X
understand
date.
that you need it for contests in which it's ambiguous, which don't exist in San Francisco, but I guess they exist in Santa Clara.
It's pretty common in virtually every other county.
Yeah, it is. Because there are contests, we don't have them here, but there are contests where the number of winners is either one or two, depending on exactly what happens. And then if there's two winners, you get a runoff.
Well, actually, you do have them here, Superior Court.
Oh, okay.
So all the Superior Court judges are a conditional runoff. So in
Right.
the June election, if one gets 50% or gets a majority of the votes, they're elected.
Right.
Otherwise, the top two go to a runoff.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I don't know. Yeah.
well, this is why I was asking how many different codes you're gonna have, because I think that may be the only case. I mean,
So the only additional one would be for June election where you could have a runoff status. Basically, it's winning, runoff, or not winning
Yeah.
are the only choices, I think. And then, we could have an additional, for all the questions, which are either approval votes, recalls, or ballot measures. The contest also has a pass-fail.
Yeah, which corresponds exactly to whether the yes choice one or whether no choice
Exactly,
one, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, no, that would actually be
It's just
helpful.
redundant information.
It's redundant information, but it would be helpful for nicer renderings, yeah.
Yeah.
I would appreciate it. But simple winter runoff, nothing would suffice for the immediate term.
And so, like if you had if it was a tax bill or tax measure,
Yeah.
and you had 60% of the votes, it would be marked, the no vote
The
would
no
be
vote would win.
win.
Even though it was only 40%, yes.
Yeah.
Because it didn't clear the 2/3 threshold.
Okay, so,
Somewhere I wrote down the codes, but
Mhm.
I have to find them, but I'll define it at least in the documentation.
okay.
All right.
Let's see, so,
Are there more things that you wanted to talk about here?
So, yeah, I guess another thing, well, there's two other areas that I could work on. I'm not sure how much I'll get done by next Sunday, but the other thing would be like turnout numbers. I have that information. I just haven't spit it out. I just have to format it.
Mhm.
And then the other issue is what we discussed before, which was a classification code on the districts. So when you group
Oh,
them,
yeah.
like,
Whether it's a CD or an AD or an SD or.
yeah, like if it's a neighborhood or if it's a congressional district or assembly district.
Yeah.
And for San Francisco, it's pretty easy to do that, but.
Yeah.
So I have a configuration file that drives the data converters. So I just need an entry for the word patterns that define the classification.
okay. And then you can both attend them at the library?
Yeah, it's Sunday after next, right?
Yeah.
Easter Sunday.
All right,
Yeah.
then, okay, let's see if there's anything else on this. I don't think so. Oh, I wanted to mention, I did send an email to Director Arntz with the link to the demo. And I'm also gonna mention it at the commission meeting, and that way people can start looking at it. And then I also asked Director Arntz if he has any feedback, if there's any features he's
So
interested in.
do we want to make it look nicer before publicizing it? I mean,
Well, I mean.
it looks pretty, like, plain to me.
Mhm.
But this is what incremental development is about, you know? It's-
Oh, maybe it's demonstrating that, though. Here's a plain version now here's a
Slightly
spiffed up
fancier
version.
yeah. Well, and that's the other thing is I'm a front-end engineer but not a designer, right? So there's.
Yeah.
I'm
Well, I
very
mean, the
little
other thing we could do,
comprehension.
just as a sample, is to say, here's what it looks like if you do it in the style of the current summary.
Yeah.
I think this is a beautiful orange color personally. Like,
What, you don't want to
Oh,
use
the
black
colors-
background
the colors are
with,
great.
you don't want to use black background with white lettering?
I can develop individual widgets pretty well, but like.
Oh, the other thing
How to make the whole page look better is a thing that I'm not great at.
So the other thing that, it looks like you did now, at least the RCV, you have it as a percentage.
Yeah, it's scaled to the winner.
Oh, it's scaled to the winner.
So the winner's bar is always the full width. And then the loser's bars are scaled accordingly.
Okay, the only thing is you can't tell,
You can
oh,
see
so the
this
dotted line is the
Is 50%
50% line?
Yeah, and
But
there's
what
some
if,
stuff-
what if, like, the top vote getter gets 20% or something?
Well, after our elimination, they won't.
No, on like a regular
Oh, yeah,
contest.
I'm thinking of getting rid of this for everything except ballot measures, and also there's clearly a bug where here there's two different lines being drawn in different places. But you can see the scaling effect pretty clearly here, where, like, Catherine Stephanie won with only barely over 50% of the vote, but Matt Haney, like, has a 60+% amount of the vote, right? But their green bars are the same width. And it's just
So actually, the 50% line is a big improvement, at least it gives you
I
something.
mean, I like it, it's nice.
Alright, it's fine, and then maybe I'll eventually figure out why this is being double drawn, like there's something that's being confused.
It's double drawn.
Like here, this is an excellent example, I graph man, I'm at 91%. He gets the green bar is the same size as all these other groups.
So there's no percent that you could use on the, like, art director?
What do you mean?
Well, if you
Oh, yeah, no, this is a bug that I already said I would fix. The non-RCV races don't have percentages yet. Because the code around that is, I focused on improving the RCV code, and the code for non-RCV stuff is still pretty crappy. So like, yeah, we're definitely gonna have bars for bar director races
So
and other
is
races
the,
as well.
like, there's different part of the template, whether it's RCV or not?
Yeah, there's a completely different template, and it's written completely differently.
Oh.
Which,
Even in the summary?
yeah, everything about it is completely different. Everything to do with reporting non-RCV results is written radically differently from reporting RCV results. That's a bigger problem that I need to solve.
Oh, okay.
What's the problem?
And I will, well, I mean, it's not a problem, I can just rewrite the non-RCV template to be more like the RCV one.
So is there like an if statement inside the?
No, there's two different template files.
No,
that
but this
are-
is not the details, this is the.
No, yeah,
This is
but-
in the summary.
Yes.
So
but
does
this
the
is composed.
template have an insert or something?
Yeah,
included?
there's a subtemplate that renders each race's
Oh,
summary.
I see, oh, okay,
Yeah, but
I didn't realize it was a
It's a
subtemplate.
semantically different
Yeah,
format.
it is
I mean,
semantically
that's-
different, I agree, but, like, other than that, it is, there's gonna be, like, yeah, the round column is not gonna be there
Yeah.
for things, but, so there are going to be differences between RCV and non-RCV, I'm still gonna have them be separate templates, but
That's
they
fine.
they should be a lot more similar than they are now, like,
Oh, okay.
a lot of that stuff, including a lot of the code, is, much more different than I want it to be, so I'm.
But, yeah, and we also need a few helper functions.
Yeah, I've been wanting to work on that, but that's like a hairier thing with a less immediate payoff. So right now I've just been working on like the improving the RCV stuff. And now that I've done this, I can go and actually like dig into the non-RCV and make it better, make it more like the RCV one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I just haven't been touching that one because it's different. I understood the RCV one better initially, so that's where I started working. And now that I understand some more stuff, I will go into the non-RCV one. And yeah, then we will have like, for like the governor doesn't have percentage bars right now, or percentages at all.
Right.
Nor do the measures or anything that's not a supervisor. So that's going to be fixed.
Okay, so I was saying, yeah, I'm gonna mention to the commission that they can take a look at the demo page. I might even show it during the meeting. Yeah.
So, sort of one issue, like on the Board of Education, there's vote for 3.
Yeah, we talked about this at the library, remember?
So, but do we have like ballots cast?
I don't think we should really
No, we don't.
worry about it too much.
Or
right
we
now.
just
I
like
mean, it's-
scale everything to the most number of votes?
Like, I don't think we should worry about it too much right now, because this is like a very nuanced point, and it's.
So, well, the question is, how do you calculate percentage?
Well, we don't have enough information to do the alternative.
Yeah.
So the old Dominion system doesn't give us the information that we want. So we're limited.
I think
in how
we have ballots
report it.
cast.
Let's, I don't think we should discuss this. I mean,
But yeah,
it's like-
I think this
it's
is
like a
getting,
minor-
All right.
yeah.
So, yeah, so what I was saying was I told the director that, and I gave him a link to the demo. I said that this is not styled, this is just a very early iteration. We just got the, it working against the department's data.
Mhm.
And I said that it's something we're all working on together. And then, I also asked him about whether we can get the exports from the new system, and he said that they hadn't gotten the new system yet.
Mhm.
So if he's still like inquiring about it.
Right.
Um,
So you want like a 0 report for the upcoming November election?
And the non-zero report too, a
Well,
sample,
yeah, yeah,
a sample.
Yeah.
So, because the thing is, the workflow of we want to make sure it works with real
Yeah.
numbers.
Yeah.
I don't know how much, but this is big, because like remember, this is the thing that the consultant said would cost $1.2 million.
I mean, we're not finished yet, but we also.
We
spent
haven't
$1.2
sent
million.
him our bill yet either.
No.
And also like compare this progress with the progress in the rest of them.
Oh, the PHP script that they.
No,
yeah,
no, I mean
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah, I mean, we're
Stuff
doing,
to
we're
do
doing this
too.
occasionally in our free time, but we're not spending nearly 40 hours a week on this, even combined. But yes,
Oh.
the actual voting system is not being developed much more quickly than this.
Yeah, I mean, so what I'm saying is, to your point about like, it doesn't look nice, I mean, like, what about, at least there's something to show.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay.
Well, actually, I like what you were saying, that we also can demonstrate, incremental or agile development by showing, hey, you get something, then
And
you get
that's
something
gonna look a lot
nicer.
better in a month,
Yeah.
each month it's gonna look better. And we can even respond to like comments. So, okay, well, good. So, anything else?
So, I know I have a bunch of things
Yeah.
before next Sunday, but do either of you guys have things you wanna do before then?
Yeah, I mean, I can mention the things, I wanna do the table of contents. And the other thing I wanted to do is I wanna get, the demo page working through Docker, which is the other issue that you filed.
Oh, yeah.
But I realized that actually requires adding a couple more arguments, because to pass the directories in the demo repository into the container, I think we're gonna need to like pass a volume path or something. You know what I mean? Because right now.
Yeah, I can also.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Sort of. If you're not able to figure it out over the next week, then we can also look at it together.
Yes.
So it seemed like that you copied stuff into a separate directory, but I think you can just, oh, you didn't?
No, what we're doing is we're copying the files out of the container.
Yeah.
But in terms of putting them in, the thing is, the workflow before was we run it natively, and then it just
Yeah.
relies on the fact that it's the current working directory.
Yeah.
But,
So normally what you wanna do is mount the subdirectory
Yeah.
as a fixed prefix path.
Right, but then you have to
inside
either
the
pass
container.
in the mount paths, or you have to like have a wrapper script that remaps the paths into mounted paths.
Well, yeah, you need whatever runs the container has to do the mapping.
Yeah.
well,
And-
all it is, it's, like I said, it's just adding another option to pass in the path to a volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I think we could probably have fixed paths. And, if you're running in a container, you don't even need to run it with an option.
No, I'm talking about outside the container.
Right, I'm just saying that
Yes.
command line scripts, or you want a shell script that has the directory. But sort of one whole-ish topic is, if you're running in a container environment, like, how is that secured? Like, like maybe you have some virtual machine or hypervisor or whatever, that's secure, that's running all your apps in containers, so like you need that outer level script to do the sequencing, job control, so I'm not sure how all that works, but that's some sort of future thing.
Yeah, I think that's a future thing. I think right now we just want it to work, because the main.
If we can, as long as we can invoke the app running in a
Right
container,
now,
we're
the
fine.
main reason I want us to have easy ways to run stuff within Docker is reproducibility, because we already saw the issue with like running the PDF thing on my system where. if
And
we-
actually, did you read that part of the email? I think I know the cause for the
I
non-determinism.
saw the subject line, I didn't read the body of the email.
Well, I think what it is because when I reinstalled the requirements,
Mhm.
I realized that the
I think
version of
it was
Report Lab
fine.
was newer. So I think it was because you had got your environment up and running, you were using a newer version of Report Lab.
Oh, okay, because I was like, wait, I tried this, I tried reinstalling Report Lab.
Oh, I noticed I got the same issue, so.
No, but that's my point. I was running in the older version, and then
Okay, but then how does it explain that the Docker?
it's because the Docker installation is using pinned requirements.
Okay.
So the normal install script is not?
Correct. Which is fine.
Okay, I think I didn't reinstall, so maybe I'm running with an even older version of Report Lab.
Right, well, and also the problem was at the time that if you, the Docker container version was actually pinned to a slightly older version, so if you install everything anew, which I did to try and debug the problem, you actually make it worse, because now you're definitely running a version that's not in the container, because the container is slightly behind.
Yeah. So, in any case, this will be solved. This will be solved.
Okay, right.
And then the last thing is I might help with this, like, if there's any, this sort of, I don't know, if
Oh, the non-RCV candidate sorting stuff, you mean?
Well, if it makes sense, whatever.
If the data model, if when I iterate over the candidates in the data model, they would come out in sort of order that we passed it, but I also haven't looked at that code a while. So.
Well, okay, I guess what I'm saying is if you don't have time, or if
Yeah.
I'd be available to do that.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, the worst that can happen is that I do a bunch of hacks in the template to sort it there, and then you can move that down into the data model where it belongs later.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Okay. Right. So.
I have a question. So one of the issues is like identifying what kind of district it is in the report detail.
Yeah.
So do we want to come up with like reporting categories as a list structure that we can form, so you could write a outer loop that says loop over the categories, then loop
Right.
over the inside?
Yes, that would be nice. For now, I think you said it knows whether it's a precinct or not a precinct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
if it-
basically either precinct or blank.
Yeah,
is
if
the
it knows that right
classification.
now, then I'm just gonna use that for now and put the precincts at the bottom, and everything else on top. And
What are you
then-
gonna do, 2 loops and then skip them?
Yeah, that's gonna be a hack, but whatever. And then, when your things comes in, I can use an interact.
So the thing is, maybe we want to add to the data model in the Python,
Yeah.
For the Jinja templates, the reporting
Yeah.
category, or I don't know I have to think of what the name is.
Yeah.
Like district category or something. And
Yeah.
then when we load the data, the Python script can just, it'll have the flat array, but then we can also create an array for
Yeah.
by
we
category.
can improve these APIs. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a lot of improvements we can.
Yeah.
So I just wondered if I should like propose an addition to the data model that, for that. Or should we just make it inherent in the,
I would get the more important stuff done first that we
Yeah.
talked about, and if you have extra time, you can do it. But I would focus on the winners.
Yeah, exactly, because right now.
I'll do that first.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just thinking that, the
Yeah,
next
we're
thing I
not-
might do is the category, and if you're writing like table of contents, you could also write the contents on the
Yeah.
results detail, although we could probably do it on Sunday.
Yeah, we can look at that on Sunday too.
Well, I mean, do you really want to? Is it really important to separate like the districts from like the neighborhoods and stuff? Is it really important to?
Well, like you might want a table of contents link to jump to the neighborhood breakdown.
Yeah, it's a nice to have.
I mean,
and
if
for
you have
now-
time, if you have time.
If you have time to do it, sure. For now, I think the data model probably has enough for me to do what I really want to do, which is put the precincts below everything else. Because there's few enough other things that it's not that big a deal.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the other thing is, I could tweak the we could define a different, we could, as part of the data converter, we could if we have categories, classification, then we could list the order that we want them to appear in.
Yeah.
And then I could do it as, right now they're in the order that's in the statement of vote files.
Mhm.
But I could change the data converter so it
Well,
Okay.
outputs the data.
like,
in
let's
a-
just do one step at a time. Like, first you have the category.
Yeah,
Then
so-
you have like ordering within let's just do one step at a time.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
like,
You can always alphabetize within each category, because that will.
No, I'm just saying I could change the order of appearance. You don't have to necessarily do it in the template.
Oh, you're saying you could just make the data converter, put the precincts at the bottom?
Yeah.
In the thing that it does, yeah, that would be great too.
So that the detailed TSV files,
Yeah.
you know, are in an order that we can decide on.
That would be good.
well, I think you should do what you're gonna do anyways. 'cause-
Yeah, I'm still gonna do that. And
Okay.
we should still have, like what you said, like a structure of different types of types and then, or different types of groupings and then the groups.
Yeah.
That would still be helpful. Because ultimately, like, you know, when we have time to make this really nice, like ultimately, I want.
You mean when
this-
this $1 million check comes through?
So I also can't remember, like, there's some contest, like, you know, there's only like one Senate district, but they give a breakdown of, you know, like Senate District 5, and then
Yeah.
it's like redundant with the total.
Yeah, that happens.
So it's like, so I don't know, I don't remember if I pruned those out or not.
But what I was trying to say is, like, eventually, when a lot of other things are fixed and we have time to make this really nice, like, I wanna make a dynamic interface where you can have, like, choose what kind of thing you want, and then we definitely wanna have a classification of whether you're looking for a neighborhood or an assembly district or whatnot. So, for my future dreams, that classification is definitely helpful.
Oh, so,
Anyway.
kind of one issue on turnout type of data, we have partial data on breakdown of registered voters by party, but we don't have the raw data.
I think we should just do the global number.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I don't think that belongs in election reporting necessarily.
Yeah.
Do you want a breakdown by party, for the whole county, or?
No, I don't think that's relevant for this.
It's
Alright.
kind of, yeah, a orthogonal topic.
Yeah, we've talked about this for a while, so maybe we can.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
move on.
Move on
Okay,
to
so,
this.
let's take public comments, see no members of the public. Next item.
Item number 9, public contributions to OSVTAC projects.
Okay, so for this one, the only reason I included these documents is because you posted them recently.
Oh, yeah, and I put a pull request up, right?
Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, we've already adopted this, but do you wanna say anything about
Yeah,
this?
so
or-
the first document that you see with the tiny font, that's the CLA that we've already adopted with very minor modifications.
So-
Basically, just the first sentence hasn't changed. To remove the reference to the open source results reporter, and just say like the projects of OSVTAC, as opposed to any particular project. So then, let's see, projects, that's the only thing that I changed in this, other than that, it's the document that we approved previously. And then I think I fixed some of like I flipped us and you, so that there's or I guess I didn't. Well, I changed some of the style bits around you and us to make things slightly easier. And then the second document that you're looking at is the markdown file. That is, so the CLA in 3 places refers to a URL, osvtac.github.io/CLA. And this is the markdown that would live at the URL. So it's a small page that explains that your contributions are welcome, that in order for your contribution to be accepted, you must sign a CLA. It links to the CLA. And this is wrong. Damn it. Okay, I have to fix this pull request, because this needs to be .pdf. Okay. So it links to the CLA, pretend that I have fixed the link. And it tells you that, you know, what to do with it, where to email it and whatnot. And then there's also a little bit of a phrase that the CLA tells you to put up here about what you should do with when you're contributing code that came from somewhere else that you didn't yourself write, but that is hopefully licensed under another open source license. And I sort of winged it on those instructions, but I hope that you find them reasonable.
Are we allowed to change this even after we make it live?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
It's not set in stone.
no.
Are you talking about this contributor, like the informational page?
Yeah, like a little markdown page, it's like a third of the page tall. And that will just be, that would be what appears when you go to osvtac.github.io/CLA.
Yeah, but I mean, any of our pages like that, we can change it.
Wait, what was
Yeah.
the thing you said you needed to fix? The
Oh,
underweight?
so
What's this underweight? Yeah.
that links to a markdown file. It shouldn't link to a PDF file. Which is the other thing.
Oh,
you
you're
printed
just saying the link
Wait,
is
can you
wrong?
do that again?
Yeah, so I uploaded
Oh, right.
I uploaded a pull
This
request.
is also, this needs to be fixed too.
What?
So,
Oh, that needs to be you, yes.
What?
so if you're making changes to this document as a board document, I have to amend the agenda.
Yeah, that's,
So what?
Which
Just, if this gets re-uploaded to this month's meeting,
No, it
has-
won't be.
no.
So there's a issue with the small print document?
No, there's an issue with the big print document, where there's two tiny issues. with
Well, I
big
see
print
the
document.
.md.
Yeah, the .md needs to be .pdf, and underneath there's a we, it says we and it should say you, which I hadn't spotted yet, Chris just spotted that.
Oh,
So I'm gonna fix those. I've already put in the pull request for this, Chris hasn't accepted it yet, but I'm gonna fix those.
And then under 6.3, it says if you or we assign rates, is that correct?
That is just the boilerplate language from the
Oh.
Harmony stuff.
So,
But I believe it's correct.
I have a couple questions. Was this PDF, was it generated automatically or did you modify something that you downloaded?
This is generated automatically from the markdown that we previously approved.
Oh, I thought
This
this
is
was
identical
from
to the markdown document that we approved
I
previously.
thought there was a template generator that they.
Yeah, but I didn't use it. I just used some software to change to take the markdown and turn it into PDF.
No, what I mean is the auto-generated markdown that it gave you, did you alter that by hand at all?
Yes, and then the committee approved it.
Okay.
At a previous meeting.
Okay.
And then I modified it a bit more just to make like the lines, the signature line longer and stuff like that, and just like stylistic things.
Okay, Mike, do you think we could store the source for the PDF somewhere in the repo too?
Yes.
Okay.
you mean the markdown?
Yeah.
Is it stored?
It's not right now.
Okay, just the PDF.
Yeah, so that should live somewhere.
Maybe in a way that's discoverable.
I'm open to recommendations for where it should live.
Well,
Because the PDF needs to be like the files submodule of the website thing, but.
if it's a text file, it can go on the main one. But like, I think what I mean by discoverable is I mean, like maybe the actual, this markdown overview thing can
Yeah.
like maybe have in parentheses, like here's a markdown version.
Okay, yeah.
So. Okay, this is fine to me.
It looks good to me.
So,
Okay. Chris, do we need to vote on this thing, or can
no,
I just do it?
So, actually, the reason I had this item was more for a different reason, rather than to review these documents. And it was because it occurred to me that even when these go live,
Mhm.
like, what do we do if someone makes a pull request? It's like,
We have to agendize it for the next committee meeting and vote
well,
to accept
this
it?
is why I wanna talk about it. Like, I mean, obviously, we can't be like interacting with this person as a group
Mhm.
on the tracker, but, like, one possibility was we could, and I don't know if this is legal, but like, we could maybe like designate like someone for each repository, like that
That
would
is,
be,
right, the ambassador for that repository and deals with all that. Yeah.
yeah, that's one possibility, or we can have it come to each meeting, but,
Yeah, we can also, like, I think that my preferred way would be to do the ambassador model, where like there's a person responsible, each repository is responsible for it, ideally the person that knows the repository best. And they, you know, merge stuff immediately if it's just not controversial, and if it is controversial or there's issues, then we can always bring it
What
to the
I
meeting.
don't know though is that because this interaction with the public would be, everyone would be viewing that,
Yeah,
it would be like they're having a one-way discussion with the rest of the committee, like, that's what I don't know.
right, oh, you mean is that like kosher Brown wise?
Yeah.
Cause it's not,
Because
I
the
mean-
majority of people would be knowing that person's views on that topic.
yes. Yeah, well, they would communicate in public.
Huh?
They would be communicating in the public, yeah.
But it's, yeah, exactly, which, I think I need to find that out.
Yeah, I mean, you, as in your function as a member of the elections commission, you do have like meetings between just yourself and like, Director Arntz or other relevant city.
No, but these
employees,
aren't
right?
like happening.
Yeah, no, I know, but I mean, I'm saying there is precedent for stuff happening where it's just like one person in the
Or like
committee.
tweets and stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird amalgamation of like, it happens in public, but it also involves only one member, so like, yeah, who knows?
Okay.
But I agree, that might be good to vet the
So
strategy.
maybe, and we don't have to decide this now, but like, maybe at the next meeting we can like decide on our process, but like the
Yeah.
ambassador idea, is that we could pick?
Or we
Oh,
can
oh,
even
there, I
do,
guess,
we can
yeah.
even have subdirectories if you want, if it's like an ORR, like, I
Oh,
mean,
then you
Roan
can
could do
ORR.
the template, just as an example.
Oh, you mean?
You don't it doesn't have to be the whole repo,
I
it
see.
could be
I guess
like
you
a
have to
section
have
of the
some-
repo.
Yeah,
A
but you have to have
designated, designated,
We have to have a way of
area.
deciding who's gonna.
But
Yeah.
we have to have some way of assigning every pull request to only one person.
right.
Because if there's a pull request that mixes, I mean, maybe also like if it like touches everything, then maybe we just bring it to the meeting because.
Yeah.
Like if it's a pull request that touches a bunch of front end stuff and also a bunch of back end stuff,
Well,
no individual is gonna be able to review that.
so if we get a pull request that's like the one you wrote, that's just correcting a typo or something, then I presume we don't make them sign a CLA.
We should,
Should?
yeah. Just to, unless you, what do you think?
You can very likely get away with not doing it for a literal typo fix, just because it's like, it's so minimal that you can't claim copyright in extremely minimal things. But it's a boundary that I'd like not to push, so.
Well, also, it'd be.
It also means that now you start introducing gray areas, so I would rather have a clear-cut policy of like, no CLA, no commits.
Because also, like, if someone looks at the commit history and they're like, okay, we have these 5 contributors, but we only have 4 CLAs, and they have to like go back and like find why.
Yeah, and find whether the contributions were substantial or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would rather have a
so
bright line
basically, when you do a pull request, you just say approve and then they're automatically added to the contributors?
Well, they're in the commit history.
policy. The list of contributors is based on the commit history of
Okay.
the authors of the
Yeah.
commits.
Yeah. But we could have, I mean, at the next meeting, we can talk about it, but we probably wanna have like the person that's gonna be interacting say like, hey, you need to
Yeah.
do the CLA and then in addition to reviewing the content. So, okay,
Yeah, this is also why my draft, my proposed CLA page says, you're free to submit pull requests before signing the CLA, but they will not be merged until we receive a signed CLA from you.
yeah, which is good. Okay.
Alright, so I will make those corrections that we talked about in my pull request for these.
Okay, so anything else on this item? Okay, take public comments, see no members of the public. Next item.
Topics for future discussion and possible action regarding topics for future discussion.
Okay, does anyone have anything? Anything? I know a couple topics we mentioned in the past were like data licensing.
Yeah.
Which is sort of like a can of worms in my opinion,
You're making my head hurt just saying the word. Yeah.
but we don't have to talk about it, it's just
Yeah.
something that had come up. But let's take public comment on this item, seeing no members of the public. Okay, no other discussion on this? Okay, then the time is now 8:30 PM exactly. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. The meeting is adjourned.